Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and today is such a special day. I have the one and only Dynamite Dana. I think that that's what we're sticking with. I think it's better than the other nickname that we came up with. But Dana, if you guys know her, you love her. She's been a consultant with us for years. Dana, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I don't get much podcast time with you. It's usually with Tiff, so it's a fun morning for me.
I know. Dana's a rock star. Yes, I can solo podcast, and yes, that's fun to do, but it's more fun to have someone on here. So I sent Dana a message, and I had it like in the afternoon, and then I was like, "Oh, my schedule changed and moved it to like first thing in the morning." So Dana, thanks for being like easy to accommodate. But I think that that's you. You're just always there, always willing to help, and offices love you for that. So we have a fun topic, you guys. I love a good office autopsy. So Dana and I are going to kind of mash a couple practices together and dig into some practice profitability trends that we're seeing on an office autopsy. You ready for that today, Dana? Because I
Yeah,
love
this is
these.
exciting.
Anything more than a good profitability story and how to get there. That's what it's about. And I think that that's what so many practices struggle with. Like they don't understand how to get profitable. They know that it's there. They know that it can be an illusion. They know that it can be a reality for some. And so Dana, I feel like some of the practices we've been dealing with lately, it's like actually making it turn into a reality rather than just this hope and a wish. So take it away. I know you've been working on this. I've been working on this. Let's have some fun today.
Yeah, it's been really fun. The past couple of weeks, I've been able to just do a lot of numbers crunching, a lot of future projections, a lot of hey, what effort is it going to take to get things where we want them to be? And it's really fun to give owners the possibilities of what they currently have or where they want to be. And so it's just been really, really interesting the last couple of weeks getting to do that, and getting offices to see where they want to put their energy, where they may need to put their energy. And so it's just been, numbers aren't, I'm learning to love numbers more and more.
Yes. Did you hear that? Dana, did you start out that way? Let's just help listeners feel like, is this a normal thing?
No, I mean, I am a systems girl through and through. And so, I know how important the numbers are. And of course, those are pieces I look at. But really, really being able to manipulate the numbers, to be able to project things, that is something that I've really had to dig into more and more. And it's been fun for sure.
Yeah. And I love the reason I highlight that is because for myself, for Dana, numbers were not something natural. For some people, it is just wired into you. But I think for 90% of human beings out there, they would feel very similar to how you and I feel. And so I just want to highlight that it's totally normal not to understand numbers. But it is also normal to figure out how to use numbers. And when you do, it actually feels like life becomes so much easier. It's like, oh my gosh, there was an HOV lane this whole time. And I had no clue that there was like a fast pass, fast lane over there that if I would just learn my numbers and dig into it, I would honestly be able to do things a lot better. And so I think that's what makes me so excited, Dana, is this is where we also help practices. Let's use the numbers to manipulate and actually do less work, more profitability, and more ease. So kudos to you for digging in. Kudos for you admitting that systems are your jam, which I think it's easy, right? But to me, I'm like, systems are only as valuable and only as important as the numbers are reflecting. Yes, we should put them in, but I'm like, if we're just putting systems in place, but we're not moving the dial, what does it matter? You're going to be struggling. You're going to have financial stress. You're going to be not happy. Use the numbers to figure out which system's broken and then go to work there. It becomes so much easier and less effort for sure.
Yeah. It's pretty magical to see. So,
right. All right. So we have a couple practices. We've got some that are multi-locations. We've got some that are solo locations. And I think we should dig into some of these multi-locations because multi-locations I feel are interesting families. And what I usually notice in multi-locations, oftentimes, depending upon the practice, these offices actually one or two or three are super profitable. And then the other two are sucking the practices dry. And it's so interesting because we think let's get so many, which if your plan is a DSO roll up or it's legacy, or you want to just expand your reach and you want to help more people, all those things are great and fine. But I think figuring out how do I make my other locations profitable? Or if you're in a single location, I think a lot of these tactics will apply to you. So let's kind of dig into these multi-location places, Dana. Cause I think it's funny. We've seen some offices where it's not funny. It's unfortunate that two are doing so good. And so they expand and they open up more. And then these other two are not doing so well. So they're like, two are profitable and two are not. So then we're not profitable all the way around and we're working our guts out. So let's talk about like, how do you fix that problem? And I think for solo practices, if you're in this boat, these things can apply to you too if you're not as profitable. Because I've also seen in solo practices where they've maybe added like a Medi Spa to it, and that's two technically different businesses under one roof. If the spa is not doing well, like I just talked to someone the other day, their spa is sucking them dry, but the dental practice is doing well, but they think the practice needs help, when it's like, no, 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 the practice is fine. The Medi Spa is the problem.
Yeah.
Or if practices have multi locations, but it's all under one umbrella, they have no clue which practice is actually the problem practice. And I think that that's something we also see is they don't actually separate them out. So they're like, we don't even know which practice. So let's dive into it. Dana, you've been working with a couple like this. Let's kind of dig into some of your tips and tricks.
Yeah. And that's honestly exactly what we did in the beginning is, hey, let's separate and let's look at numbers individually for each practice so we can see as a whole, how are we doing? Yes. But where are we profitable and where aren't we, so that we know, like you said, how we can hone in and target our efforts on the ones that need a little bit more of a boost or show a little bit more of opportunity. And so once we figured that out, then it really is looking at fixed costs for individual practices. It's looking at overhead expenses. And then it is really projecting out, what does it take to get it to where we want to be? So what do we actually need? Right. And in this instance, it was really cool to be able to even dive a little bit deeper as far as, okay, well, if we take the doctor, right? If we take the provider away from the profit that's like the practice that's profitable, and he's working in one of the other practices, like what does that also cost the
Mm-hmm.
practice that is booming? And so it was really fun to just map that out, have them see that also too, every time he's pulled to one of these other practices, there is a cost to the larger location.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting them to see that, it just helps him make a better decision as far as how much time that he is spending there versus associates, and then getting the associates to help grow external practices. And it just, I think, gave him just a clearer picture. And then we also looked at, okay, well, considering investing in some marketing for these. So what does it take for how many new patients do we really need to get to that number? And then we kind of mapped it out in, okay, well, what does the marketing spend look like for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years to get there? So then they had a timeline too, to just be able to make decisions on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, Dana, you brought up so many good points. And I think like let's drill down into this a little bit, because you like these are the things where numbers become so fun, because now it's just A plus B equals C. But if we do A plus B plus C, that's going to equal D. If we take A minus B, add C, what does that equal? And so that's really where it's like looking at this. And so I think for a lot of providers, especially our powerhouse providers that started the practice, made these profitable practices, and then opened multiples, there can be this thought process of, well, I have to be in the practice all the time. Otherwise, the practice doesn't make money. And I think that is one way to live. But let's also like choose our own adventure books. Like, let's go back in time. Like, we could have at the end of that chapter, it says, okay, option one is you're going to actually continue working like this, and you are going to be the provider in 4 locations. Or we can have you be where we powerhouse you in 1 or 2 or maybe all 4, but it's a very sustainable schedule for you. And we work to build up the associates and the hygiene department, and we make it to where all of them are flourishing with or without you. And to me, I like to choose option B. You can choose option A if you want, but that's like a sure shot to burnout. And I think so many multi-practice owners actually do this, like, I'm going to go to all the practices because I'm the strong producer, I'm the strong provider, I need to get these things going. And you can, but it's like, for how long, and is there another path? So drilling it down, Dana, I think let's talk about like, how can they do this other path with ease? Like, what are some of the tactical things that we've seen with practices you're working with other practices that we've worked with in the past? Like, what are some of these like tactical pieces? Like, how can we, because I think that illusion is so strong that I have to be the producer, I have to be the one who hits the numbers. What else can we do, and how long is that timeline realistically?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost is if you aren't going to be the provider in the other practices, it's really building strong associates, really making sure that you're finding the right fit for whether it's the main office, whether it's one of the extension offices, whatever it is, that that associate really is the right fit, and that you are calibrating really well and you are bringing in strong associates who want to grow these practices with you and alongside you, because again, you can't be in every practice. You can, but like you said, it sure is a way to be exhausted and burnt out and start to just not love owning all of these practices.
hmm And like, so as you said that, it makes me think about like when you buy a practice. I remember I was working with this potential client, and we were looking at the metrics of this practice, and they realized that like 70% of the production of this practice was actually being done by procedures that this dentist didn't do. So I was like, well, good luck buying that practice. You only can do 30% of this production. So yes, they may have produced like 1.5 or 1.9, like whatever it is, but slash 70% of that because you won't be able to produce that unless you bring an associate in. And so I think when you talked about like, what are the monthly costs of this practice? What does it actually take us to run? Let's do our second location. Well, you're so used to your practice right now because you're probably doing these expanded procedures, you're probably doing these higher ones. And most of the time, what I see is doctors are like, well, I'm just going to hire someone who can do bread and butter dentistry as my associate. So then I can just do these big surgeries. Well, if that's the case, we need to figure out practice number 2 or practice number 3. A, what are the actual full costs of that practice and what do we need to produce? B, can we produce that on bread and butter, or do we need to bring in your specialty? If we need to bring your specialty in, or if we're going to pull you out of current option A, like where you currently are with an associate, how much of the dentistry is actually being done by your specialty services? And do you need to hire an associate that can do some of those specialty services as well? This is where the numbers become so paramount because it's like, well, we produced 1.5 or we produced 2 or we produced 3. Now we're going to open our next location. But like Dana said, like bringing on an associate, it's not just a good fit. It's also making sure that they have the procedure makeup mix that can offset your production loss when you're gone. Or you get very strategic of, okay, when I am in practice A, I'm only doing these high end ones. So I'm producing this amount. They're funneling these exams to me. You also have to be careful because if your associate doesn't do these high end procedures, they're not going to look for it in exams. So that's when you calibrate your associates, you calibrate your hygiene team to look for it. And when you get to multi offices, this is where Zoom and virtual meetings become paramount because you get all associates together and we all start looking for it. So we actually become referring partners to one another within the practices. And we also get our hygiene team and or AI to make sure that all of us are diagnosing the same level. So these are the things where I'm like, this actually can make your multi-practice ownership way easier if you get these good foundations in place. And like you said, Dana, you find an associate who's like just as good, if not better, if you need them to be. But looking at the numbers, because just because your practice is producing 2 million, 2.5, 3 million, wherever you are before you open your second location, maybe it's 1.5, look to see how much of that is done by your higher end services. Because typically an associate coming out of school or a newer associate who's bread and butter dentistry is usually producing like 5 to 6,000 a day. Well, look at what you're producing. And if we brought someone in, can they produce that? Or if straight out of school, they're producing like 2,500. So you might need to scale up or have multi associates. But I think also being strategic when you open these practices of what do my doctors on the low end need to produce? Because I know they're going to produce lower at the beginning. How can I calibrate them and work with them every single month, every single week? How can we take x-rays and make sure from the get-go these associates are doing really well? And also, how can my hygiene team make sure that they're all calibrated to be doing the exams that we want? I think like those things might feel hard, but choose your heart in this scenario of I'd rather do that and know what I actually have to produce rather than just thinking we're going to like stamp and repeat when you might be the higher producer. Dana, that was a lot of thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I love that. And you're exactly right. I think looking at the service mix, knowing how much of your production comes from those things, because then it's like, how important is it to find that? And what exactly am I looking for in an associate? So, we talk about avatars a fair amount, and it's just like that is what points you into building those pieces and honing in for exactly what you need to be successful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really big also on like, how can we scrap the costs down at the beginning? Because, like, I don't have children, Dana, you have 4. And so I think question mark. You could probably speak to this better than I can. Obviously you can because you've gone through it. But my hunch is when you have a baby, it's really hard. And then as they get older, you're like, shoot, let's have another baby. And maybe you've forgotten how hard baby is when they're a baby. Is this true or false? Like, just tell me how it is. Like, the baby grows up and then you have the next baby. Like, did you maybe forget how hard it was to have a brand new newborn?
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah.
like, tell me about that. Like, how
Oh
is that
yeah, for
parenting?
sure, for sure. Your mind plays tricks on you and makes you think that it's going to be super simple. And yeah, it's just like each phase, right? You kind of forget how you look back, right? And you see the beautiful things, right? You see the things that were fun. You see how much they smelled so good and how little they were, and all those pieces. And yeah, you do remember, or you do remember the highlights, and you tend to forget like the long, exhausting, brutal nights that can sometimes come with a little tiny
Mhm.
human. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's about practice ownership too. So
Yeah.
when you look at it, you have forgotten when you go to buy your second location, the scrap and the hard and all the things you did to build that thing to be successful. Like literally we forget. I forget of like, I mean, I was talking to Shelby and I'm like, I remember paying Tiffany on straight Venmo. Why she continued to work with me, I don't know. My Venmo account, like there's a max that you can send every single week, month. And I'm like, oh, Tiff, I hit my limit. Like I'll have to send it to you when it resets in like 3 days. How on earth did Tiffany keep working with me is question number one I have. And number two, like that's not even something that I even like remotely think about in today's world. Like things are so set up, but you forget all of that. And so I think when we buy practice number two or practice number three and we're looking at these costs, let's not go for the bougie luxury of exactly what we have. Let's figure out what are the things that are going to make it consistent. Same software, same exams, same like operatory setup if possible, because those things actually make you move quicker and then your practices become standardized. So when you go from location to location, it's much easier. But those are going to be some of the things that also keep the cost lower so we don't have to produce as much with you in there and still have it be profitable. Because you can have a practice that's only producing, say, 70,000 or 80,000 without you there, add a 50% overhead and still shelling out to you 20 to 30% profit, depending upon how you're paying your associates. And that's still a great practice. It does not have to be producing the numbers if you keep your costs within reason. And so I think also being careful that if you're not there and we don't need all these, like, we don't need all the marketing for the second location, we don't need all the implant supplies. Like, if that's not a part and our associate's not going to do it, then make sure that we're not incurring that cost, because what that does is I think that this is where we then get into the struggle of the profitability of the multi practices that then fluctuates because we're standardizing, but we're also trying to make all of them the exact same when maybe that's unnecessary. So I think that's one. But then you also talked about marketing because every new location has a different makeup. They're going to have a different makeup of patients. And just because it worked in one area for your marketing does not mean it works in another area. So Dana, let's do a little dig. We have a hypothetical four practice location. Two practices are profitable. The other two aren't. What are some of the steps or things that we should look for to get these other two profitable? Because we kind of talked about like before you buy a practice or if you're already in it, like here's some things to do or looking for these different associates. But like, shoot, I'm already in it. I've got two that are great, two that are bleeding. What do I do on these bleeding ones to make them healthy?
Yeah, and I think it's multi-practice, single practice, whatever it is, it's knowing who you're trying to attract and where are they. And so if you're a pediatric practice, right? Well, who are the parents that we're targeting? Who are the moms that we're targeting? Where are they in the community? How can we get involved in the things that they're involved in, whether it is even online Facebook groups or whatever it is. But I think it starts with knowing exactly who you want to walk through your door and where you find them around the location of the practice.
And that's going to help because also pay attention because certain areas will attract different parents.
Mhm.
Like there's different demographics, there's different socioeconomics. Like, so just because you're trying to attract the Lululemon mom for one practice, you might be attracting the Walmart Target mom at another location. Both moms are amazing. Both children will be great, but you've got to do like the Lululemon mom has very different marketing tactics and what you're going to do and what your giveaways might be in that practice or whatever you strive to do, how you're going to involve in the community. I'm going to be at the Pilates. I'm going to be at the juicer places. I'm going to be at like Elixir. Like that's what I'm doing for my Lululemon mom. I'm going to be like, they're probably at charter schools more than they're at public schools. That's going to be a different mom. And then my moms who are the Target Walmart moms, I'm going to be at like the community centers. I'm going to be at the rec centers. I'm going to be at the YMCA. I'm going to be at the, I don't know, like the Moose Lodge, like whatever those ones are where lots of kids go. You guys, I don't have kids, so clearly I'm not great at this, but like, that's why I'm not a pediatric dentist either. But you look at it, those moms are going to be different. The moms who are about Walmart are going to want someone who is cost of like, so you might throw membership plans in there because they're more for that. The Lululemon mom's probably going to want more of like the nutrition and what can I do and what's the highest quality. They're not going for like your lowest, like give me a deal, but your Walmart and your Target mom probably is. And so again, there's nothing wrong with either mom, but your marketing strategies will probably need to change. So when you're looking at that profit margin or the bleeding practices, is our marketing working and do we need to change it up? Agreed. Do we have enough new patients for that? I also think I'd be looking at my costs. Like, is our staffing right? Because some of these bleeding practices don't have enough patients that we might need to scale back our team at those locations to where maybe we're working 2 or 3 days. Like that's a bummer, but we're going to hire more part-time employees rather than full-time employees until we can build up to that. And these are decisions that I just want to highlight. CEOs, this is why we get paid what we get paid, because our job is to make these hard decisions. Our job is to say like, we don't have the space for this. So we tell the team, you don't just have to go like, whack, like, all right, we're out. It's like, hey, we've got 2 months that we can do this. And I need to get this patient up to this amount. This is our BAM. This is what we have to produce. And if we don't, we're going to need to cut back to 3 days. Like it's just a black and white conversation, but your job as a CEO is to make sure you're not bleeding money and you get those practices profitable. It's also, what can we do? Can I go in and mentor that associate doctor? Can they come and watch me? Can we assist each other so that way they see how I'm doing these procedures and I can help them get more confident in it? Like what needs to happen to get that production number up? What do I need to do for my assisting team there? So again, it's not, and I think for these multi-practice owners, I think one of my biggest tips is you are not the solution. Pretend you are a puppeteer behind the screen. How do you get all these practices profitable without you being the one? Dana, what are your thoughts about that? Because that's how I feel, but I'm curious how you feel.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you completely. And I think that when they have the numbers, when they look at those pieces, when they can say, okay, if I bring in an associate and they produce at this amount, it will take me, let's say, well, I'll use pediatric as an example. They produce 300 an hour, right? Or 300 per patient, per new patient that comes in. And then you can say, okay, well, if we do it at that, if we do it at the 450 level, if we do it closer to the 700 per patient or per hour, then it lets you see how quickly you can grow, how quickly you can get to the production that you need to cover your expenses, those pieces. And so I just think that you're 100% right. And knowing the numbers to be able to make those decisions and make those critical cuts or those critical avenues for success, it just truly, truly helps.
Mm-hmm. And it all comes back to the numbers. And I think when you know your BAM, like a true BAM, we're talking bare ACE minimum. Like we're not going, again, it's like, think back to when you started the practice. That's bare ACE minimum. Like, what do I need to do to scrap it down? We're talking top ramen versus filet mignon. We'll get to the fillets, but we need to start here, grow up to it. Again, choose your heart. For me, it's way harder to be not profitable and cash flowing negatively rather than not hiring as much or cutting my supplies down or limiting what we're doing or changing my hours up until I can get it there. Now, Dana, let's go into a weird one because a lot of times owners think like, especially like solo practicer owners, that if my practice isn't profitable, I'm going to scale it down to like 2 or 3 days, and then I'm going to go moonlight at another practice. This is like a very hot debate that I have within myself. So like, what are your thoughts about that? I have very strong opinions about this, but I'm super curious because that can seem like a plausible idea, right? Like, let's go work somewhere else. Let's bring in the money to cover this one while I build it up. Give me some thoughts on that if your one practice isn't doing as well.
Yeah. And, I can understand the notion of like wanting to do that because it's like, I'm trying to stop the bleeding or I'm trying to at least reduce the stress or reduce the feeling of this isn't growing fast enough or it isn't as successful as they want. But then what you're doing is you're really limiting the potential. You're limiting the potential of the location that you already have, right? To then go where you don't have unlimited potential. And so I just feel like to plug the energy and put the effort and put the focus on the practice versus I can understand the want to go find something that is steady and stable when this feels so uncertain or we don't know. But I do feel like you put your energy and your focus on it, and it will be more profitable than if we went somewhere else where it's capped for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a fun debate that I really love, and I love the perspectives. And I think there's no right answer. You've got to figure out what's right for you. But I am very similar to Dana in the sense of I feel when you have an out of a second practice that you moonlight at, it doesn't force you to innovate in your space. It's kind of like a band-aid where it's like, okay, yeah, this can bleed, kind of like a second location or a third location that's not as profitable, and your first and second ones are just covering up the pain of it, to where you're like, all right, we'll just go and we'll find money in another place, versus like, no, if you have to sit in this place, you will figure it out because there's no other option. Like the boats have been burned. We have to figure out what we're going to do and we have to make this work. And so that's kind of where I'm like, sure, I see it, but I also think there has to be a date that's in stone of we will end by this time, and I know I have to have it profitable. Same thing with your bleeding practices. I think when you put dates on it of like by this date, it has to be profitable. And you have to have the self-integrity within yourself that you will actually own that you will work towards that. Because otherwise, like you said, Dana, like it's unlimited potential within your practice. It's also like you're limiting yourself by going to another location. And I feel like if another location is easier for you, maybe being a practice owner is not right for you. And I say that with love and respect, like know thyself and be free. Um, because I feel like, hey, when you burn the boats, you innovate, you find it. Shelby and I were talking the other day, and we like threw out this goal. And Shelby's like, Kiera, I don't even know how we're going to do that. We've never done that before. And I said, I don't know either. We're going to figure it out. Like, that's just how you have to operate. Like, I don't know. And so whether it's you need a coach or you need someone to guide you, like Dana, like sometimes we're in the thick of it. I have coaches I can't see. I call Liz all the time. I'm like, Liz, I need your perspective because I don't know and I'm in it. And I need you to be a bird's eye view for me of like, where do I need to navigate through this? Because the option is to go through it. It's not to like jump off board. But maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need to like look at the numbers and figure it out. Maybe you need to realize I'm not the solution for it. And if I'm not the solution, then what are my solutions in the coloring box or in my toolbox? Like I think when you remove yourself and you say, because it's not sustainable. 4 practices, 1 doctor, and trying to be the profit producer for all of them, like that's a hard ask, even for a short amount of time. Sure, you can do it, but it's not sustainable. Like you will burn out. And I see these doctors coming in like crisp fried, like ready to give up everything. They have nothing left. They're becoming numb. They're becoming like detached from family members. They don't even get excited for things that used to make them excited because they're literally burnt to a crisp. So it's not a sustainable model. So why are we doing it? Oh, because we think it's easier. Just like we think moonlighting's easier versus like, no, let's fix the problem. Let's have a date in stone and let's move on. So Dana, I freaking love these conversations because it helps me see like, 1, you got to know your numbers. The numbers will tell you what to do or not to do. 2, I think you've got to be really confident in making the decisions. 3, let's set some dates in stone and make sure that we're actually committed to figuring out the problems by this date. We're not pumping more money into it. Honestly, like if I was looking and I had practices that weren't profitable, I think the only areas I would spend money are possibly marketing, possibly, but there's so much free marketing that you can do. So let's not throw money there if we're actually losing money. I would spend money on a great consultant, someone who's been there, done it, and done it successfully to move you there. Because sometimes when we're in the thick of our problems, we can't get out of it. So that is another cost that, but again, I talked to a doctor, they're on cash flow row right now is what I call it. And I said, all right, you have 2 choices. You're either going to rise up or you're going to rise out. Like you take your, like choose your hard. And to me, I'd rather like pay the money and commit and make the decisions and like follow through or turn it over. Like you're in cash flow row. There's no other option for you. So you've got to execute. And really, truly, like those are the main things that I would spend money on. And then I would look to see how can I cut my expenses and what do I actually have to do and produce to take the stress off to become profitable or at least not losing money. That's like my only focus for that time. And I don't let anything else distract me. It's very hard to put those blinders on, but I think that's also where an accountability coach, a consultant, yes, I will toot our own horn. Dentally team is really, really good at this. We do not let you steer away from it. I know you want to talk about marketing and I know you want to talk about like, oh, but we need these supplies. No, that's a distraction from what's really going on. We need to get profitable, and that's production, collections, and overhead reduction. Like that's all you need to do during those moments. So let's figure it out and let's find the way and put those blinders on and commit that we will always be profitable. Dana, I'm off my soapbox. Any last thoughts you've got? Because I clearly am passionate about this.
No, I love seeing the passion, and it just bleeds through in everything you do, and that's the passion that we have for our clients. And so when we see them in these situations, and it's like, let's dig in together, let's figure it out and put in the work.
Yeah. Dana, brilliant. I love that you have clients like this. I love that I have clients like these are the puzzles we love to help you with. So whether you're a solo practitioner or you're a multi-owner practitioner or you're thinking multi-ownership, whatever it is, like I really do think having a coach, hopefully before you get to this spot, if you're already in the spot, rock on, we can still help you. So I think like whether you're in it now, like get the help, like throw up the life raft right now before it's too late. I really, it stresses me out when clients come in and they're on cash flow row. So like it's okay and it's okay and it doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you weren't like you're a bad business owner or I should have seen this coming. No, you're a business owner. Like this is real life. But like let's get the help before it gets to be like really like the water's already up to our neck. Like let's get it where it's maybe at like our chest and we're feeling the pressure mount a little bit. But there's still a little bit of breathing room rather than when it's like up to our chin. That becomes a lot harder, but still doable. Or like, hey, let's be proactive, kind of like, I mean, couples therapy option. I'm like, let's be proactive and do this before we need the divorce help. Like, let's try and save the practices before. So if we can help you, I love to do practice growth calls with you, like no pressure, complimentary to you. We'll just look at the gaps in your practice, give you a ton of value. If it works for you and we're a great fit, awesome. We'd love to help you. If not, you're going to walk away from that of some awesome tips and value because I want you to see your blind spots and I want you to see the solutions. Regardless. So reach out hello at thedentallyteam.com or book a call. Dana, love podcasting with you. Thanks for coming on early today. Thanks for being a great consultant. Thanks for loving our clients and just having that passion for their success. So fun to podcast with you today.
Same. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And for all of you listening, thanks for listening. And I'll catch you next time on the Dentally Team podcast.